trained on the hall at the end of this. As you may know, a limited crowd present. What a dark event we have just witnessed. The tip of the hat to Cormac McCarthy when we say, if that wasn't a mess, it'll do till the mess gets here. As difficult as that was to watch, as the spouses now join both men on stage, as bracing as it is to realize this behavior is taking place in pursuit of the job we used to refer to as leader of the free world.
I want you to notice something. Trump's icy reception when Melania comes to him. He finishes the debate, they come over, and he gives her a cold, like, yeah, business thing. Where Joe Biden fully understands the politics. Hug your wife. Doesn't matter if you guys are on good terms. Hug your wife. You want the public to think that you guys are on great terms and you guys are a strong family unit and all of this other stuff. And so you can hate each other. You could just had a fight. You both could have been messing around 2 minutes before you came out there. But for the political thing that you need, that your marriage represents, love you. Love you. Trump doesn't get that. And when these two come together, he gives her this weird, icy reception that, I have to be honest, doesn't entirely make sense to me.
A dark event we have just witnessed.
I mean, it's your wife, dude. It's politics. The world is watching. Why can't you hug your wife? Why the cold shoulder? Very, very strange. Now, the reason I'm showing you this is because I want to make an argument that there's a videotape that's floating around that Melania Trump curse Laden, where she is dropping F-bombs and all about the Christmas tree that she didn't want to necessarily set up. But the thing that they're hitting her more so than the Christmas tree stuff is what she says about the cages that those kids were in. Now, a lot of people, right Democrats, and some on the left have fed into this, sharing this. Oh, I knew she was a horrible person. I knew that if she was with them, she had to be just like him. I knew she was so callous. And in doing so, it gives them something of this kind of affirmation of energy where they can just throw hatred at her based on an audio tape that was leaked from a person who is no longer her friend. I don't know if this is sympathy for Melania Trump. I don't know if it goes that far. But what I honestly believe here is that she's dragged into a world that she never wanted to be into. She had no reason to believe that the American public would elect her husband, a reality show host, to be president of the United States. The man has failed at one business after the next. I would imagine she would assume there's no way he can win. He wins. Her life changes. There's a spotlight on her. Everything that she does, she's compared to the other first ladies. And any and everything that Donald Trump does, regardless of how bellicose he is, how belligerent, how out of line he is, how unempathetic, that's her husband. And unless she's going to divorce him while he's president, that's her husband. And all of the stuff Donald Trump does, he does as an individual. By the same token, it casts a dark light on her. So people's feelings of Trump are automatically transposed to her because she is standing right there by his side while he does all of that. And if you are with a man that does that, what does it say about you? Somewhat writes itself, right? And again, truth of the matter is, though, she's with him not thinking this horrible person would ever be a horrible person as a president. And yet there they are. There were reports that she was crying on election night. I don't know if that's entirely true or false, but there were other reports basically making the point that they never expected to win. They didn't think this was going to work. And yet, there they are. And what do you think happens to a person that is dealing with persistent frustration, persistent inability to move in the way that they may want to move, in the agency they may want to move because of the constraints of the office and the constraints of the White House? What does it mean when media, when press have a spotlight on you, waiting for you to make a mistake, using your husband as a way of looking to some degree at you and having expectations of you? And yet, despite those expectations, when you do something good, don't follow it. You are basically pigeonholed by the perspective of your husband. And in the same way they hate your husband, by definition almost, just by tangential association, they also greatly dislike you. That's your life if you're Melania Trump. Whatever the riches and everything else, whatever the White House, it's very possible that she doesn't want that life. That wasn't a life she thought she would ever have to live. Why wouldn't that breed frustration or callousness or a certain degree of contempt just in the way you go about your operations? The tape that liberals are passing around and are, look how horrible she is. And they get to affirm their feelings of how horrible she is with a certain degree of evidence. And it makes them feel good. It makes them feel great. But look closer at that tape. Listen closer to what she's saying. And does she not have a point? If you want to call it callous, fair enough. I would make the argument that people get callous in situations where they're basically persistently frustrated. Your agency, your ability to act, your decision space have been constrained in some way that breeds frustration and contempt at whatever is inhibiting your pathway. And in this case, the presidency and the Oval Office itself and the things to which accrue around that office seems to be the issue of her angst. And that is not something that can change. So if she is pissed off, yeah, those F-bombs are going to fly. Because she can't leave until Trump either loses or croaks. Both of them, at this point, have COVID-19. And yes, I know that's a weird way of putting those together. I'm just making the point that both of them are sick at this point. Both of them are off the campaign trail for a bit. So that story subsumed this story. But the catch of the matter is, this story to me is a non-story. And it's only something that Democrats will pass around or liberals will pass around to try to affirm their feelings of her. But in the grand scheme of reality of the things, they completely miss the point that she actually has a good point. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content, please like, share, and subscribe. You can always support this content through PayPal or Patreon. I spent all morning cutting videos. I had to, you do that stuff yourself sometimes when it's just faster. Also, the show went very well today, so I want to thank everybody that watched. Fault Lines 7 to 10 takes place every morning. A great show, actually, with Shane Stranahan, but today I ran it on my own, so there was a certain degree of enthusiasm about doing it. So definitely tune in if you guys dig it. I want to show this video because I think she's being a little bit unfairly treated here. Now, I don't know anything about Melania Trump, so this is not coming from her perspective where I know all of this stuff about her, so I'm okay with this one. I don't know her enough to do that. I'm just making an assessment based on a video or the audio tape, the reaction to it, and just listening to the tape and asking myself, is she right? And does she have a point? Whether it's callous, whether it's, a bit aggressive, or whether it's even seems to ignore what people will call travesties of justice, meaning those kids being in those cages, which were basically COVID-19 pits at the point where so many people were being thrown in. ICE, Trump's own personal Gestapo-like force as it goes through the country and grab people indiscriminately from that particular community. I want to hear her. Let's listen to what she's saying. Let's listen to what all the hubbub is about.
They say I'm complicit. I'm the same like him. I support him. I don't say enough. I don't do enough.
No.
Where I am, I'm working like my ass
I know.
Like Christmas stuff that, who gives a f***? about Christmas stuff and decoration, but I need to do it, right?
Yeah, but
Correct?
100%. You have
And
no
then-
choice.
And then I do it, and I say that I'm working on Christmas, planning for the Christmas, and they said, "Oh, what about the children that they were separated?" Give me a break. Where they were saying anything when Obama did that?
I know.
I cannot go. I was trying to get the kid reunited with the mom. I didn't have a chance. Needs to go through the process and through the law.
But here's my thing. Hear what you just said. But instead of that, if your messaging, you were
Just to intervene into this for the moment. Again, the Christmas thing, who cares? Who cares? I don't care if Melania Trump decides not to do the Christmas thing. I didn't even know that she was doing it. I mean, I'm making the point that you can delegate that stuff, but she feels like I'm stuck in this. She also makes a very strong point to say, they say I'm like him. Well, if you're saying that you have qualms with that, to some degree you find yourself to be a degree or some degrees of separation between who you are and who he is. And there are relationships where a wife gets with a husband that is utterly atrocious. My grandmother, for example, one of the nicest people you would ever meet, married to a man who was an alcoholic monster. So it does happen. So I don't necessarily cast the dark mark in this. But understand, her tirade here is frustration oriented. It's angst. It's the constraints that I'm stuck with, and this is not necessarily the life that I wanted. And she's telling a friend, and the friend recorded her and then dropped the audio tape. We're out here just talking. I think I'm being honest, and you're being receptive to my honesty, where we can talk. And you leak this. And you leak this. More importantly, she also makes this point of saying the cages. Nobody gave a fuck about those cages when Obama was in office. She's right. How's she wrong? She's right. Now, you might want to say callous, but the reality of it is she's the wife of the President of the United States. And what on earth do you expect the wife of the President of the United States to do? When was Michelle Obama ever asked to do anything to stop Obama from doing anything? Nobody said, hey, Michelle Obama, could you get Obama from stop putting those kids in cages? Nobody did that. Not that I'm aware of. Maybe somebody from probability standpoint, but not like this. And the wild part about this is when she makes the point about Obama kids in cages, nobody cared. Nobody blinked an eye. Liberals still shared this video. Oh, she's a horrible person. Why is she a horrible person? Because she said she didn't give a fuck about those kids in the cages. Is it possible she was saying that from a standpoint of frustration and not necessarily from a standpoint of no sympathy for the kids that are in cages? And the fact that she is no power, just the wife of the President of the United States. The notion that she can do anything about that is mind-blowing. The only power she would have is to bug and browbeat Donald Trump. You just saw the reception that them two had after the debate. Good luck with that. It is not in her power to do that. She's not the President of the United States. You could attack her, but the attacks are basically for her just being with Donald Trump. Let's just be clear on that. And so she's like, I don't give a fuck. What am I supposed to do? Now, here's the second part to this. She tries to get what sounds like a publicity stunt, and it's not accepted. And that also, again, breeds frustration, callousness, contempt. Because in one sense, I'm in a world that I don't necessarily want to be in. I have constraints that I don't necessarily want. And with all that, there are people who attack me relentlessly. She's looking, to some degree, for something else. She's trying to have this moment of clarity and honesty with a friend. And the moment that friend gets angry at her, poof, out there. But unlike a lot of people, I frankly don't assign this notion of blemish on her soul for having a conversation that she was very angry about for the things that were around her. I hope you understand what I mean. That's a person thing. Anybody, any of us could do that. Any of us could get into like these kind of arguments where we go after somebody, or for that matter, we're angry at something that's around us, that's holding us in, that's constraining our behavior. I'm not going to hit her for this. Yeah, it's callous. But why wouldn't it be callous, considering where she is, what she's dealing with, what she's going through? I don't think she likes all of this stuff. Hence, the conversation she's having with her friend. And if it's pissing you off, how does that typically come out? Let's hear the last point. And maybe I'm being too kind to her on this. I guess my point is, it doesn't tell you anything. This clip doesn't tell you anything. It's an angered utterance, basically, on everything that's been going on around her and the attacks that people have been levying against her. What does that mean from the standpoint of her caring about kids in cages? I am unclear. I do know she's pissed off at being asked about it. That's what I know. I could be wrong. If she's come out somewhere else and said, yeah, fuck those kids, or yeah, I'm good with those kids in cages, or yeah, I fully support my husband putting kids in cages, some of that, then I apologize. And I will make another video saying she's a horrible person also. But for right now, I don't see it. I just don't. It sounds like somebody who's just pissed off.
So loved.
They
You were.
would not do the story. We put it out. They would not do the story.
I'm telling
You
you.
would not believe it. They would not do the story because
No,
they are not. They would not do the story because they are against us, because they're liberal media. Yeah, if I go to Fox, they will do the story. I don't want to go to Fox.
That's the interesting part too. She's making this point of like, look, there's a story that I would have done, and it was something about a kid or anything else. Now, whether that was a publicity stunt or whether she was doing it out of the kindness of her heart, look, they're political people, right? And political people do publicity stunts. When they pull the thing down with Saddam Hussein, publicity stunt, you'd be all sorts of surprised at the political machinations that go on behind the scenes in order to push point of view. Even the leaking of this or the giving this over to some degree is out there hitting her. Publicity for a storybook. You have an election coming up, so in some level of discord, oh, she doesn't even like Christmas. How horrible of a person. I guess my point is, I don't see anything in this video that's mind-blowing to me. And not just not mind-blowing to me, if you give her just, not even just her, random person, stressful situation, constantly attacked, constantly maligned, not even for the stuff she's doing, but for the stuff her husband is doing. And this goes on year after year after year, living through Russiagate, living through an impeachment, living through those, well, the debate, yes. But basically, you are under a microscope with this guy who they consider an ogre and the end of democracy itself. And she doesn't seem to even like all of this pomp and circumstance stuff regarding the office. She might want to be a trophy wife outside of politics, yes. Because then you don't have these constraints of office. You can be basically you, and the world is not necessarily paying attention to you as you pursue your life. So you can pursue your life in pretty decent means because you are fantastically rich. Even if your husband fails miserably, constantly, he loses like $1 billion, at the end of the day, he and you are still be rich. Put you in the White House, you have public scrutiny. And that being rich stuff gets constrained, at least from the standpoint of you being able to just blow off cash and everything else. No. This is an aggravation. And the aggravation is made that much worse by people in opposition to her just because of her husband. The secondary point is, even when I do something good, they don't care. They don't care. They hate us. And the issue is, she's like, they're liberal media. Yes, Fox is its own conservative media. But what she wants is to be able to get herself seen outside of the context of Trump. That's what I suspect. Or out of the context of right-wing media. The framing and the way that people see her is always off because it's always governed by her husband because he's such a dominant presence. How do you get out of that shadow? And maybe her idea is, I want to be seen by CNN audience. I want to be seen by MSNBC audience. Look at what happens at the end. Keep in mind, this is CNN that's running this video. And her complaint is that CNN and liberal media, they wouldn't run these stories about me. They basically hate us. Let's hear it. And I want you to see what happens at the end, where Anderson Cooper and the other woman basically talk about this video. Meaning the only way she can get positive coverage, and it's not even positive, is to have somebody to leak a video of her talking about it. I hope you understand what I mean. Let's keep going.
Story.
I'm telling
You would not believe it. They would not do the story because they would not do the story because they are against us because they're liberal media. Yeah, if I go to Fox, they will do the story. I don't want to go to Fox.
It's so interesting. I mean, one, there's to hearing her being hostile toward, decorating the White House for Christmas, I certainly doesn't jive with, the Fox whole idea. I mean, from talking.
I always get mad at watching this stuff. It just seems so paltry compared to what's going on. I don't care about this. Yes, there would be people who would, they hate Donald Trump already, so they would they'll use it as fodder or whatever. It's the theater of it all that bugs me. Who cares? This is so unimportant in comparison to the context of what's going on around our world. And yet, circus, there's a lot of people without bread. And I'm telling you that bread is monstrously important because those people without bread will go out and burn stuff down at least of provocations. Look, whatever you think of her, she has a point to me. She has several points in that. Even though it's profanity laden, at the very least, you get a somewhat idea of the pressures she faces and the things that she finds to be constraints. So it's an interesting clip. But that clip of just basic, honest, this is what I feel, even that, it rips apart and ridiculed. Like, share, and subscribe.